Welcome to the Wild Wisdom Podcast, where we learn how to heal our hearts, find our voices, and step into our authentic power as the wild women that we were destined to be. I'm your host, Jessica Love. Settle into whichever way you like to listen to the Wild Wisdom Podcast, and let's get started. We are back with another analysis on White Lotus Season 3, sharing more examples of how White Lotus Season 2 really showed the distorted divine masculine and how Season 3 has been clearly showing us the distorted divine feminine. I feel like after this week's episode, I finally have enough information about Kate, Lori, and Chloe to do an analysis on them. And you might be surprised to find that I have detected one other divine masculine based off of this episode. We're going to look at her at the end. Now, let's talk about Miss Kate. So, Miss Kate has a couple different shadow feminine or distorted feminine qualities. One is subservience. So, subservience is not the same thing as submissive with your partner. So, being subservient to your partner is just doing things because that's what your partner did. And you see that in the episode where she talks about voting for Trump. She doesn't say with her full chest, look, I voted for Trump because these are the policies that I agree of his. And she simply says, that's who my husband voted for, and that's who my church votes for. Blindly doing what other people are doing because they either told you to do so or because you didn't have enough critical thought to make a different choice. Or, like I said, to say it with your full chest and make the same choice, that is subservience. And there's a big difference between being submissive to your partner and being subservient. Some divine feminines like to be submissive to their partners and some don't. And that's okay. I feel like there's a misconception that the divine feminine is always submissive. I don't feel like that's necessarily true. The divine feminine is fully embodied in her unique relationship dynamic and what works best for her and her partner. Now, that being said, if one decided one day that they wanted to be submissive to their partner, it's a different vibe. So, being submissive is you follow your partner's lead, you follow their invitations, you trust them, but you don't just blindly do whatever they tell you to do. You also have to listen to your gut. So, a way you could be submissive with your partner is like letting them come to you and make a dinner plan and not trying to control every single aspect of that dinner plan and where you're going and what he's going to wear or what she's going to wear, right? And what everybody's going to order off the menu. A great way to be submissive is to just allow yourself to be taken to dinner. It's not submissive to just allow yourself to vote for a presidential candidate that you don't even know, you can't even back up in an argument why they would be more beneficial than the other person. And you can't even back up why you're going to a certain church or following a certain religion. Just beyond that, people are nice there. Like if you're going to be following a religion and going to a certain church and voting for a certain presidential candidate, you might want to have some reasons to actually back that up that aren't just simply because that's what your partner's doing. Make individual thought sexy again. Another instance of Kate that we're seeing, another version of her distorted feminine or another shadow feminine quality that she possesses is gossip. And what I was talking about with Miss Ratliff, this idea that like the fake nice, like the Midwestern, Southern fake nice. So not only does she fall into this pattern of gossip, of literally telling Lori what she saw with Jacqueline, but she gets mad when Lori tells Jacqueline, I saw you sleeping with Valentine. Kay is doing this thing where she's basically playing victim. And something that she says to Lori is, I didn't think you would take it so personally, or I didn't think you would be so upset about it. She's not sitting in her divine feminine energy of empathy and compassion and integrity. And like I said, if you're going to say something to somebody, say it with your full chest and be prepared to hold that person in their response to what you're sharing. Lori's emotions are totally valid in this situation. And I don't feel like the way that she brought it up to Jacqueline was distorted in any way. She was direct, she was honest, she wasn't like completely off the rails in her expression of it, but she was direct, she was honest, and she was assertive. And these two ladies get triggered by that because they're in distortions. And these people who are following in this divine feminine shadow of either fake nice or gossip, what happens when it comes back to bite them in the butt? They hide. They hide and then they switch sides. So literally Kate switched from being like, let's say if hypothetically speaking, they were on two different teams, she switched from being team Lori to team Jacqueline really fast. And if you go back to talking about that whole subservient thing, so sometimes people who fall into that shadow, like they really value status. And it's interesting because it's almost like Kate kind of quivers when she realizes that Jacqueline's upset about this. And then she kind of goes and kisses Jacqueline's butt. And Jacqueline is maybe of a higher socioeconomic status than Lori, which they also have all been gossiping about this whole time. What does the divine feminine do when she sees something that's clearly wrong and one of her friends is getting in trouble? Like if Kate was in her divine feminine energy, she probably would have talked to Jacqueline first in a kind way, in an empathetic way of, hey, I saw Valentine leave your room last night. What's going on? Are you okay? Because clearly she's not okay. And then they could have had a conversation amongst themselves, and she could have gently inspired Jacqueline to have that conversation with Lori, or for the three of them to have a conversation together, because she would be aware of and intuitive enough to know that this whole time Jacqueline's been trying to hook up Lori with Valentine, and Lori was kind of starting to catch a vibe for Valentine because Jacqueline's in her distorted feminine competition and needing to have control over everything. She didn't listen to that. And so Jacqueline should be the villain in this story, not Lori. And to be honest, even though I don't like the way that Kate handled it, technically her being the phone line between the two of them with the situation doesn't necessarily make her the villain either. But the way she responded to Lori and the way she's responding to the situation that she created herself, that is definitely a distorted feminine. All right, so now we have Miss Chloe. Chloe clearly falls into the distorted feminine of seduction to cause harm, and also she falls into that distorted feminine quality of manipulation. And we see that with the way she talks to Greg, which I don't like Greg. Okay. And he clearly gets something from her too, but like she also clearly is manipulating him. She tries to manipulate the guards on the boat and blackmail them into not telling him that they hooked up. And she manipulates the brothers and Chelsea into doing drugs and into having relations with her. Nobody deserves to be drugged and abused in an intimate way or taken advantage of in an intimate way. And it was such subtle foreshadowing for Saxon to literally say that while they all took that drug. So now she's on the receiving end of the manipulation with Greg slash Gary. And Gary slash Greg is like, hey, I need you to go do something for me. And I feel like maybe, first of all, I don't know why anybody's going to this party that they're planning. Like, I don't know why anybody is going to this party. Clearly, everybody's in a distortion and nobody's connected to their intuition. Whoever stays home from this party is clearly the one that's connected to their intuition the most. I think that he is going to try to kill Belinda. I think that's a very possible situation. But I also don't know if that's what he told Chloe. I don't think that he would tell Chloe the lore between him and Jennifer Coolidge's character. I can't remember her name in the series, and how he murdered her and everything, and how Belinda knows that. I don't think that he's going to tell her that because she, well, it's a little complicated. I feel like she might actually know because she keeps making references that he could kill her. But I don't think he would want her to know anything more than that because he's also manipulating her back. And now he has some blackmail on her. He knows that she hooked up with both of the brothers too, I think. And I think he knows that she's not being honest about that. And so now I think he might confront Saxon, Lachlan, and Chloe and Belinda all at this party. And I think it's going to be really interesting. I hope he doesn't murder them all, but I think that could happen. And I originally said that all but two of the female characters were in their distorted feminine, but after watching episode 6, I have now decided that 3 of the characters are in their divine feminine. So, who is our rising queen? You might have guessed that it's Lori. Now, I had some suspicions about Lori at the beginning that she might be in her divine feminine because of how authentic she's been this whole time. Now, look, the divine feminine is not perfect. Lori, love her, my girl, she's not perfect. We see her, getting obliterated with men 20 years younger than her after being basically bullied to do that by her friend. We see her kind of like having a moment of pure sadness where she's like drinking and she's crying and she's realizing that she's in a dark place in her life. And somebody might think, oh, that means that she's in a disordered feminine, or that means that she's not in her divine feminine. And that's not true. The divine feminine isn't always like running around in a field of flowers, totally elated. She also has darkness. She also has sadness and pain and grief, but she allows herself to feel it. And that is something that we've seen from Lori from the beginning. She's been very consistent about speaking up about her views in an assertive way and about allowing herself to actually feel her emotions. I think that she handled the conflict between her and Jacqueline based off of the information that Kate shared with her about Valentine leaving Jacqueline's room so well. She was smart, she was wise, she was direct, and she didn't take any poop. Because the divine feminine knows what's up, and she doesn't have to just take people's distortions and absorb them into herself. She doesn't have to fight Jacqueline's manipulation with more manipulation. She knows that Jacqueline's lying. And the divine feminine doesn't want to be friends with somebody who's a liar or deceptive because she's not deceptive. She's authentic. She's honest. And I love the little dance that she did walking back to her room. So, if you saw in the last episode, after they were all in the pool with the boys and everybody was drinking a lot, first of all, the boys were really attracted to Lori because she was authentic. Okay. Masculine energy loves divine feminine energy. It's just how it is. She wasn't performing. She wasn't putting on a show. She was just having a good time. And that was magnetic, like moths to a flame. I guess Kate was being like somewhat authentic, but I don't know. I feel like because she has so many distortions, she just probably has like a dark aura that propels people away from her. Like maybe that's even what happened with Victoria Ratliff when she was like, "Oh, I think I know you." Maybe she like propelled her away from her. I don't know. But going back to our queen, Lori, or divine feminine, so she has been honest this whole time. She's been humble this whole time and she's been authentic. And she was like, you know what, we're going to go out and you know what, I am going to have fun because I like to turn up and that's who I am. And she had a ball and everybody was attracted to her. And I remember her walking back to her room and she was like doing that dance with the towel. She does the same dance going back to her room after calling out Jacqueline on her situation with Valentine. So here she is in the night before, she's drunk and she's doing that dance. And then we see her do it again sober in the morning. And I think that that's a good reflection that, you know, how people say that people are very different drunk? Sometimes they are, but divine feminine people are usually the same. When you're in your divine feminine energy, your sense of self isn't so malleable that anytime you consume a substance, you're not yourself. People who blame substances instead of themselves when they make mistakes are not in their divine feminine energy. You took the substance and you made a mistake based off the substance. It wasn't the substance that made you do that thing. Lori's the same person, whether she's drunk or she's sober. I love the scene where she's fighting with Kate, and Kate is like, I can't believe you said that. Why did you say that? And you know what she says? Our queen says, because I'm honest. Because I'm honest. I don't want to lie about things. Okay. She's saying, she's putting her foot down. She's in integrity. And that also shows that she has a really good relationship with her divine masculine because the divine feminine has a good relationship with her own divine masculine too, which creates so much balance and harmony that creates this kind of energy that's like, don't mess with me. Like, I'm a real human. I'm an authentic being. Yes, I'm radiant. Yes, I'm dancing at the club with these boys, but I'm not going to let you walk all over me. I'm not going to let you gaslight me and lie to me. So I'm really excited to see Lori's character continue to grow and evolve. I love her so far. I just needed a little bit more information about her before I claimed that she was definitely in her divine feminine. If you're looking to heal these energies within yourself and get out of some of these shadow dynamics that I mentioned throughout the series, you can apply for my upcoming Wild Women coaching program. We begin on 4/4, so April 4th. And this is a program that helps you learn tools, techniques, systems, and structures, and also process some of your past experiences so that you can start to heal from these distortions and start operating more in your divine feminine energy. The link to apply is in my bio. I'm sending you all so much love. When the season ends and there's a big break and we're all waiting for White Lotus season 4, that's when I'm going to do a deep dive on season 2 and talk about the shadow masculine. So stay tuned for that as well and give me a follow if that's something that you want to see. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Wild Wisdom podcast. Really enjoyed this podcast. Go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to spread this wisdom to other sisters who might need it.